everybody. This is a workshop on how to write a cannabis industry resume, or rather, I guess a talk can also be considered a workshop. I'm going to jump right into it. So the cannabis industry is expanding like wildfire all around the United States and even in different countries. And as the industry continues to expand, it is opening up a wide diversity of job opportunities across a number of different specialties. Some of the fastest growing areas in cannabis have included marketing, social media, financial and legal services, technology, software, and then also cultivation, customer service, processing, all kinds of stuff. So regardless of your current or intended industry, a key aspect of successfully changing careers into cannabis involves identifying and marketing your transferable skills. So in other words, what experience, knowledge, or skills did you acquire in your previous career and in your life that can be applied to jobs in the cannabis space? So we're going to get into that. So first, a little bit about me. My name is Samantha Montanaro, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Tokeativity. I have a degree in visual communications and graphic design and took a number of courses on resume writing. And as a graphic designer and somebody who's been working in the cannabis industry for a long time, I've helped a lot of folks redo their resume to get a job into the space. If you're new into cannabis, it can be really daunting and difficult to figure out how to get an in. There is definitely a word of mouth situation still going on. And if you don't know anybody and you're just applying blind, you want to have an amazing resume that's going to get people's attention, especially in the customer service department at, in dispensaries and whatnot. Intake managers are being flooded with candidates all the time. So how do you set yourself apart, and how do you create a resume that really stands out and not only communicates who you are and what you can bring to a team, but also is compelling enough to get you that interview right away? So let's get into this. First things first, though, why do you want to work in cannabis? Asking yourself your why and getting that dialed in is essential. Cannabis is a unique industry in that it weaves together a lot of society's greatest issues right now. So it's a healing plant. It also has industrial uses, like paper and hempcrete, building materials. Can literally replace plastics, fuel. I mean, there's so many uses for hemp and for cannabis. And we all know the standard stoner stigma, but most people in cannabis have some sort of why story as to why they're really passionate about it. It isn't just about, I love smoking weed. It definitely goes beyond that. So asking yourself your why, and why is it that you want to be working in cannabis? Getting that dialed in, I think, is really important before you enter the industry. Also, do your research. Not only about the company you're applying to. I mean, this is pretty standard protocol here. If you're applying to a company that you really want to work for, you should be doing research on that company and tailoring your resume and your cover letter to show that company that you've already invested some time and energy. You want to work for them. So not only doing your research about the company, but also about local issues. If you're applying, say, at a dispensary in California, doing some research on the local area, what other dispensaries are there? What kind of issues are they maybe dealing with? What does the legislation look like? What does the regulatory system look like? I know that it can be really daunting, but like understanding at least a little bit about the actual physical location is going to be helpful. In cannabis, in the industry here, each state and county and city can have different regulations. So what a dispensary can do in Portland, Oregon might not be what a dispensary can do in Salem, Oregon. And there's some interesting nuances to that. So get to know your area and do some research about what's going on in the space. Also, educate yourself on the racist history of the drug war. This is crucial. We need educated and empowered folks entering the industry that have an understanding that the propaganda conjecture against cannabis is with a racist foundation, and that we need to be actively doing anti-racism work in cannabis. I personally believe, and I hope you do too, that if you are participating and benefiting off of this now legal market, you need to understand how that has impacted communities of color specifically for generations to come, and actively participate in not only unraveling that and understanding it, but participating in creating a future that is equitable and inclusive for everybody to benefit from. Also, empower yourself as an activist. Cannabis, again, it's not like the retail industry. It's not just like, oh, I'm selling jewelry or something. It's like, there are people still sitting in prison for cannabis. So empower yourself as an activist and know that if you're participating in the cannabis industry, you have a very important voice. So use it. You should use it, and you should feel empowered to use it. Also, first things first is, and the last thing here is something that I think is important, is we're legitimizing the cannabis industry right now. Again, it's still illegal in some spaces, and there's a lot of different opinions as to how federal legalization can, should, will roll out. And we want to legitimize this industry with professionalism. The cannabis industry has a bad rap for a good reason. It's, the legacy market was really, and is still cutthroat, the working environments, and we're not, we're like, HR is new in cannabis, so I just think it's really important to, if you're going to enter the cannabis space, to educate yourself and to be able to show up as a professional who is passionate, understanding your why, understanding the history, the racist history of the drug war, and feeling empowered as to how to activate your skill sets to bring legitimization and professionalism and forward momentum in this industry. So let's ask the question, what makes a great resume? As someone who has written a lot of resumes and also has been a manager of a number of different companies and now owning my own companies, hiring people, I see a lot of resumes. So what makes a great resume? This is, not just in the cannabis industry, overall. I find simple, clean, and clear. Something that's beautiful, simple, easy to read, and concise is essential, first and foremost. A great resume also communicates your personality through not only the language you're using, but also the look and feel of it and the cover letter. Good design is important to me as someone who's obsessed with visual communications. But again, as somebody who's hired a lot of other people, resumes that stand out visually are just going to get seen in this stack. Or if I'm looking through a million emails and I'm like looking at these PDFs and literally kind of like going through them, the ones with good design stand out. There's lots of resources online for how to design a good resume, but I think it's really important. Also, this is going to come up again later, but I think communicating things like, are you willing to relocate? Some things like this right in the beginning. A lot of cannabis companies are expanding. They may have a local operation, and then they might be looking at going to another state. So I know that, people are always looking for people who are flexible. Not if you can't relocate, that's totally okay. But if you can be flexible in some ways, communicating that from the start, I think is adds to it being a great resume. So, there's a couple different types of people that are going to be entering the cannabis space. Someone who has no industry experience versus someone who does have legacy experience. For me, my story is I was love at first toke, age 15. I went on to just love cannabis as a consumer, but I started selling cannabis in Wisconsin in the late 90s and was just really honestly trying to pay for my own plant for me to be able to support myself. And I know a lot of other people are in that space. There's a whole wide variety of experience, and something interesting is on a resume, how do you communicate that you have experience in cannabis without, without being afraid, I guess, that you're incriminating yourself. I think that's definitely an interesting thing to look at. If you don't have experience in cannabis, that's okay. We want to identify your transferable skills and focus on those. Someone doesn't even have to consume cannabis to be a great cannabis industry professional. But as I was saying in the beginning, whether you're smoking weed or not, you should be doing your research about the racist history of the drug war. You should be tapped into activism and local policy and keeping your finger on the pulse a little bit of what is going on in this bigger picture. This is a brand new industry that, again, there's still people sitting in prison. So, coming in at least educated about the cannabis space is going to be very helpful. So let's get into identifying your transferable skills. So say you worked in bars and restaurants. That was a lot of my experience prior to cannabis. I was working in bars and restaurants. So how do I identify my transferable skills? Well, first off, transferable skills come in really like three big buckets. The first bucket is soft skills, like communication, work ethic, your desire to learn, dependability, ability to reach deadlines. Some of these skills that I know for us at Tokeativity, when we're hiring, these are things that are actually kind of the most important to us. Do you have strong communication skills? What is your work ethic like, especially in this work from home world? What is your desire to learn new things? And are you dependable? I find that these transferable skills in cannabis hold the most weight in my experience. The second bucket for transferable skills are hard skills like writing, client relations, sales, customer service, budgeting, P&L management, public speaking, stakeholder management, presenting, software, certain technologies. What are these hard skills of like, okay, I've learned this, and this, and these past things, and this is what I can bring to the cannabis space. And the third main bucket of transferable skills is overlapping experience. So that is like volunteer work or your education or working with a similar type of business. Maybe you worked in a retail shop and now you're interested in working in a dispensary. There's a lot of overlapping experience there that comes, it's, hard and soft skills, but more so just the fact that you have experience doing that. Or I was working at a law firm. And I haven't worked in cannabis before, but I was doing family law. There's still going to be a lot of those transferable skills happening there and overlapping experience that can be very valuable. Some more examples of transferable skills can include customer service and account management, deep product knowledge. This goes really far. If you're looking to work at a farm specifically, trying their products, or say you want to work at an edible company, getting to know their products. How are those products comparing to the other products on the market? Doing a little research yourself before you even apply is always going to be helpful. At the end of the day, a good resume only goes so far. You have to know what you're talking about. So some other transferable skills, working with similar products or similar types of customers, working with similar types of companies, understanding industry trends and legislation. This is, I think, critical in cannabis and really interesting because industry trends are happening on local levels in different ways. At Tokeativity, we're the global feminist community for active cannabis culture. This is something we're very excited about, of just like keeping our finger on the pulse and the broader community of what is going on in different places. What are the industry trends in South Africa? What are the industry trends in Pennsylvania? What are the industry trends in California. And then you can even go further from there. So, I think that it shows if you do have an understanding of industry trends in the local area that you're applying to, I think that can come across as being really impressive, that just you're paying attention to what's going on. And nobody wants to hire someone who doesn't care about what's happening with the company. And in cannabis, if you're a cannabis company, you're a part of a movement. You're a part of a revolution, and the industry trends and local legislation are essential to the forward momentum of all of it. Lastly, an example of a transferable skill that I think kind of piggybacks on the industry trends is really just passion for the industry. If you, you can be passionate about smoking weed, but like take it further. What is your passion for the industry? For me, my passion comes from this idea that I can actually participate in something that's going to change other people's lives. That, future generations, that my son is going to be able to consume cannabis without worrying about being thrown in jail. That is so exciting to me, and I feel very passionate about that. And my passion is magnetic, and your passion is also magnetic. And showing that through your resume and through your cover letter and through your communication can really go far. So in all of my years of doing resumes, there's a certain recipe that I follow every single time because I think it's very effective. And I notice that when I'm hiring, I tend to gravitate towards this style as well, or this flow. So layout and flow. How do you communicate? How are you writing that clear, concise resume? Put your name, address, contact information at the top. Make it easy for them to find you and get a hold of you. There's nothing more frustrating than being like, this resume looks great, but I actually don't know how to get a hold of them. Or I have to ask them for their phone number, or I have to ask them for their email. We live in the digital age. It's a little bit different now, but still you'd be surprised at how many people forget to kind of put their basic info at the top. So just make it really crystal clear, your name, pronouns, contact information, some basic stuff there, and then get to it. Start with your objective. Tell me what your mission is. What are you doing? You're looking for a job. What is your mission? Tweak it to this, and then tweak that mission to suit the needs of your potential employer. I think that this is one thing that is the reason that I've gotten like literally every job I've ever applied for, because I write a compelling objective. I make it very clear what I'm setting out to do as someone who's looking to join the workforce in this space. I think like having the energy of like, they'd be lucky to have me because this is my goal, and they would be lucky to have me on their team. So writing a really compelling objective is, I find, one of the most important things. You can really hit a lot of different aspects of a great resume by just writing a good objective. A recipe that I always follow for writing a good objective is saying something like this. Here's an example. My name at the top, Samantha Montanaro, samanthamontanaro@gmail.com, phone number. Objective. My objective is to activate decades of passion for the cannabis industry in combination with my extensive experience in customer service to help build a reputable brand that makes change in the world. Something like that. Doesn't that make you feel a little bit excited? It makes me feel excited. It communicates what I want to do. It communicates that I have experience and I'm confident about my experience. And it communicates that I want longevity, that I want to join a team and be a part of something. As a business owner, I want to see this from anyone who is applying to work with me. I want to know that you want to help my business grow. I want to know that you care about the industry and that you care about what's going on. So the objective recipe is really, what is your objective? It's to do something for myself using my skills and then helping a business grow. I feel like those three things, you can say it a lot of different ways. It is really compelling. And this is a fun place that you can get a little bit creative too. You could say something like, my objective is, to utilize my whatever. I'm actually not going to give other examples there. I feel like that example was hit the nail on the head. I'm going to read that one again because I think it's really poignant, and you can replace it with, with whatever suits you and the job that you're doing. But my objective is to activate decades of passion for the cannabis plant in combination with my extensive experience in customer service. So I'm activating my passion, activating my experience to help a reputable brand grow. I think that's such an amazing way to start a resume. And if I read an objective like that, I'm intrigued. I'm definitely looking further. What's up next? Jump into your key skills, those transferable skills. Your work experience, I feel like you can lead with your work experience if you have an amazing work experience in the cannabis space. But if you're entering cannabis for the first time, start with your key skills. And actually, again, as an employer, I like seeing those key skills before work experience, because what matters to me is what is your goal in your life, your objective, and what skills do you have to bring to the team? So outlining these two things right at the top, I think is a really powerful way to set your resume apart. People tend to follow, I think what we all kind of learned in high school, which is just like, you just like have your name and then your work experience and your education and your references. So, I think what's really neat about this layout is it's tapping in a little bit deeper to who you are and communicating that. So layout and flow for resume, we're going to start with a strong objective. We're going to outline our key skills, focusing on your transferable skills. What have you learned that's brought you here that you can bring anywhere you go now? Up next, your work experience. I find what I care about as an employer for work experience, and again, I can only speak for myself there, but I want to see longevity or like positive relationships. It is a little bit alarming if you see a lot of different jobs. We're in the digital age, and what's interesting is I actually know, like, in the tech space, it's totally normal for people to work at places for short amounts of time because there's so much growth happening and people are scouting people all the time. So in the tech space, it's not a big deal to not have like 10 years of experience somewhere. But, in this work experience, what can you show through your work experience that you can't show through defining your key skills? I feel like showing, what types of things you've been interested in doing. That's what it shows me too. Like, where have you been before? I started working at Subway. That was my first job. And then I worked at Applebee's, and I worked at a lot of different restaurants over the years. When I have my last resume, I just put the one bar and restaurant that I worked at on and off for 7 years. And I didn't include any of the other ones because that's just showing that I have customer service experience, and it's showing longevity. And the way that I wrote about the job there showed that I have a really positive relationship with the team there. Point being, in work experience, I think that, show what's relevant and like try and put yourself on the other side. Why does somebody want to hire? Why should they hire you? What has brought you here? And sometimes that work experience, and this is where we go to the next section, which it can include education, memberships, volunteer work, freelance work. These two can kind of be combined into one section, or it can be two separate sections. But I often call this, the work experience section, relevant experience. So we have objective, key skills, and then relevant experience. What have you done that's brought you here? and just bullet point it. You don't have to have, sometimes I feel like people have way too much information in this section. I'm not even reading it. I think a lot of intake people who are hiring, they're not even reading it either. They get like a million resumes. If they're actually talking to you, then they're going to start looking at your experience and they're going to ask you questions about it. They're going to want it more. So give them a good teaser. What have you learned that's brought you to this place? Last up is your references. And I think references are really crucial, especially in the cannabis space, and especially if you've not worked in cannabis before and you're transferring your skills into the new industry. References are an amazing way for you to curate how somebody hears about you. So, choosing somebody who has your back, like choose references for, share a couple people that you've worked with, maybe not even necessarily at a job, but maybe you like volunteered at a festival with this person over a number of years and they're doing something and they really see that, see your amazingness and see your awesome skills. Sharing references is, again, a really great way for you to share someone who's on your team. And any good employer is definitely going to call those references. So, make sure you're choosing references that, one, are going to give you a good review, but also make sure you give heads up to your references. As someone who often gives references for people, if someone doesn't give me heads up and then I get a random call from someone being like, hey, yeah, I'm here to, I'm calling today to have a few minutes of your time to talk about so-and-so because you're a reference on their thing. If I didn't know that they were using me as a reference and I didn't have a heads up about that call, it feels awkward and it ends up making you look really bad, because if I'm caught off guard and I'm like, oh, wait, what? And maybe I'm like in the middle of something, right? And I like answer the phone or whatever, I just have a couple minutes and I seem caught off guard, that can look really bad for the employer, that like, wow, they didn't even tell their reference that they were going to be calling. So make sure if you're applying somewhere and you're getting somewhere with it, or like, maybe you're going through an interview process, or before you even share it, just like, hey, so-and-so, I would love some references, or I am applying for jobs in the cannabis space. Can I use you as a reference? And, 9 times out of 10, people are going to say yes. And you can even communicate to them, I'd really love to get this job because of XYZ, and I want them to know these things about me. I really want to drill that I'm super reliable. I know that I don't have a lot of skills in this space, but I learn really fast and I'm really reliable and I'm really passionate. And I really want to drive home to them that I will be great for their team. You can communicate to your references in a way that like helps you paint the picture of yourself for an employer that can really help your case. And that's it. So to go back over on a great cannabis industry resume, whether you've been in this space or not, starting with a strong objective. Starting with your contact information, your name, your contact info. And I didn't talk about this at all. I think this is something that I always recommend to clients. Again, I'm coming from like the, graphic design, visual communications department. So I know I care about this a little bit more, but creating even a little logo for yourself. You can do this in Canva. Canva.com is a free design site. It's really easy and intuitive to use. Creating like a little logo for yourself. This can like really set it apart, or do some sort of color like header, or use colors and imagery to stand out. But also, again, you want to be super professional, and we know that clean, simple, and clear is going to be the most effective. So effective resume, strong resume, good looking design, name, contact information, strong objective, key skills. Why are you going to be an amazing person on this team? What have you done? Relevant experience. And then education, memberships, volunteer, freelance work, any of that stuff in there that's relevant. Focus on it. I don't care if you were paid or not. If you were volunteering for for so say you're entering the cannabis space and you are volunteering to for like a campaign for someone who is running for city council, and you have like this other, you're like, okay, I worked at this restaurant and then I worked at this like, store, and I don't know, I don't feel really confident that I have like these great skills, but I worked on this, I volunteered on this campaign, and this is really exciting to me. Again, like I was saying earlier, tapping into that passion part, that makes you magnetic. That, I think, communicates who it is that you really are. So this like relevant experience section does not necessarily need to be just jobs. It can be really anything that's brought you to where you are that is relevant to the job you're applying for. Who is the company you're applying for, and what position are you applying for? Really tailor this experience to that. When I was looking for jobs a number of years ago, before starting work in the cannabis space, I had a whole bunch of different experience. So, I've worked in a lot of different industries and I've done a lot of different things in my life. So I would actually tailor my relevant experience to the job I was applying for. Don't be afraid to make many different resumes. Make a resume for each individual. You have your one resume, make a copy of it and tailor it for that specific job. And then last up, references. Have really great references that can be very helpful. So in conclusion, we need people. There's going to be more and more jobs coming into the cannabis space, and we need great people to work in the cannabis industry who care about the plant and the planet and the movement and the revolution. We need people who have experience in other industries that can come into this industry and innovate the future of this industry. The cannabis industry is a little bit different than other spaces. And if you educate yourself on the history of cannabis, prohibition, the racist drug war, the things leading up to it, if you empower yourself as an activist, and if you go in with the intention to legitimize this industry with professionalism and passion, you're going to be successful. Make a simple, clean, and clear resume. Communicate your personality through your resume using color, design, and your language, the words that you're using. Share it with a friend. Once you're done with your resume and if you're feeling like, okay, I'm ready to start sending this out, maybe do you know someone who works in the industry? Shoot them an email and say, hey, do you think you could take a quick look at this? Don't be afraid to reach out, to other folks. If you're here right now watching this video, email me. Seriously, Samantha at tokeativity.com. Hey, can you take a look at this resume? I'm happy to. We need amazing people in the industry, as I was saying, and writing a resume it's like an art. I mean, there's a recipe to it, and it doesn't have to be super challenging, but you're not alone in it. Reach out for help, and yeah, I am so excited to be here today at the Pride and Equity Tokeativity Social. I'm excited to hopefully, help folks who are interested in starting to work in the cannabis industry, or maybe worked in the industry for a variety of, in a variety of other ways, but are now looking at actually applying to jobs. I'm excited to hopefully help folks know how to write a good resume so that they're getting the job. You deserve the job that you want. You deserve the job of your dreams. And if you see a job that you're like, oh my gosh, I want this job, taking the time to tailor this and to really put your energy into it and to set those intentions, it will benefit you for sure. Thank you so much for watching. For those of you who have been here today, we have some time left here. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. Christina, I see you're here. Yay! Oh, good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you were here, and I'm glad you took notes, and please feel free to reach out to me. If anybody has any questions, you can post them in the chat box, or you can share your screen and we can have a conversation. I'm happy to talk about it. And Yeah, it's been very interesting here at Tokeativity. We are not currently hiring, but we do receive a lot of different resumes. And, I think something that's interesting to note as an employer, it's literally kind of offensive when you get some bullshit resume that was not tailored to your company. You can sense it, and you feel like, okay, this person's sending out 100 resumes to like every company. They're throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. Maybe this is like a cool conclusion here, is if you want if you want your dream job, find your dream job. Take the time to write a really great resume and put a lot of energy into that company, into getting to know things about it. Start participating. If it's a store, participating. If it's Tokeativity, if you're like, I really want to work at Tokeativity, show up, right? Like, keep coming. Start to like, let us get to know you. Then actually nearly everyone on our team just started coming. This is actually a cool story. Casey Weiser, who is our chief operating officer now, her and I met at a clothes swap. And I was doing Prism House events, and she was like, I've always worked in events. I would love to work with you. Do you need someone to help like at the bar? And I was like, actually, yeah, I have an event coming up. Sure, come help me. I was going to do it myself, but this will be really helpful. Come help me. So she started working with me, and we started to develop a rapport together. And then when Tokeativity started, she was like, I am here for it. Tell me what to do. How can I help? And she literally started volunteering with us. And when we were in the position to actually start paying folks and bringing folks on the team, she was first in line. So, becoming a part of the community and the culture of the company that you're looking to join is a really great way to get involved. Kia, our chief creative officer, was one of our first grassroots members. Kia has been a member of Tokeativity since 2017. She literally didn't know anyone at Tokeativity, showed up, started coming to the events. We started to get to know her. Eventually, I connected with her, and we were talking about music and art and seshing together. And I was like, you're fucking awesome. I want to hang out with you. She came over. We had cocktails one day. We just started to develop a relationship together. And I knew literally 2 years before we started working together, I was like, I want to work with her. I don't know in what way, but I love her energy. And, jobs are not just jobs. This is teamwork. And again, in cannabis, we're all participating in this movement that's literally healing lives. So it's not just some bullshit job. It's really meaningful. And if you really care and you really want to be a part of something that feels really good, valuing yourself and what you have to bring to it, and then getting to know that company and seeing where their ethos sits, and is that in alignment? When you feel that full body yes, keep going with it. Like I see that magic work for myself all the time. It's the power of manifestation. If you put energy and intention into it, you're going to see that return. So I think that can go much farther than any resume, honestly. We've brought on a couple women onto our team just recently with just some part-time help with customer service or whatever else. Women who just reached out to us out of the blue that were like, I have been following Tokeativity for a long time. These are my skill sets. I would love to get involved. Is there any way I can be a part of this? And, I'm like, thank you for making it easy for me. This is great. Yes, we'd love to work with you. And after a couple conversations, we started to work with them. So I think that I do see this in the cannabis space, that especially folks who work in the retail space, they're bombarded. They're freaking bombarded with resumes. So, if there's a dispensary that you want to work at, frequenting it, getting to know the other staff members, asking about their hiring process. How do you guys get, they want a family dynamic. Everybody does in cannabis. We all feel like family to begin with, but by becoming a part of the culture of the company you want to work for, it's really giving you a leg up and helping you dial in if it is really something you even want to be doing. I hope that you guys found that to be helpful. For those of you, if you're just joining here, I know we just have a few minutes left here. If anybody wants to jump on and share screen or ask a question in the Q&A or in the chat here about getting a job in the cannabis space or writing a resume. You know, it's really exciting. And just like the service industry right now, there is a shortage of folks, you know, of good quality folks that are ready to work. So if you're in that space, jump into it. Hi, Alicia, welcome. Yeah, please. No worries if I already covered it. Feel free to share what you're wondering. And hopefully I can answer that for you. How do you translate unofficial experience onto a resume? Yeah, so this is a recorded session. It will be available in a few weeks, but I'll do a really quick overview. I spent a lot of time on this. Transferable skills is like, what is up? So, and I guess by unofficial, do you mean like legacy market stuff? Do you mean like growing in the legacy market, in the black market? Or do you mean like taking like, you know, oh, I worked at the front desk of this place, and then I worked in childcare, and I'm trying to figure out how to add that into the resume. Legacy market, cool. So what's awesome is like, I think that you should just literally add it in the relevant experience section. So the structure that I always use for resume building is contact information, strong objective, key skills, and then relevant experience. By not calling it work experience, I think you can incorporate a lot more into it. And in relevant experience, you could literally title it like home grow operation, and then write underneath it, you know, what did you do there? You know, from seed to, you know, from seed to harvest to post-production, or from seed to processing or whatever, you know, talk about what you did there. Everybody who is in cannabis now is here because of the legacy market. So I find there's just mad respect, and I mean, there's like a fine line of not wanting to incriminate yourself. Part of me thinks like no one gives a shit. You know, it's like, welcome to the club. We all like, I sold weed when I was 18, you know, like I'm not afraid to even say it anymore. I mean, I literally got busted for it. So it's on public record. It's no secret, but like, you know, but like, again, communicating the skill sets there, because like, let's say you were growing and selling and you grossed like $400,000 one year or something, you know, this kind of stuff, just like use professional language to describe what you did. And I think just like, if there's anything that feels incriminating or like too risque, I mean, you know, do what feels comfortable to you with that. But I think if you have legacy market experience, you should 100% be putting that on your resume. Maybe it's a part of your objective. The objective that I shared, this is like a recipe that I always use. The objective example that I shared before would be Samantha Montanaro, contact information, objective, to activate my decades of passion for the cannabis plant in combination with my extensive experience in customer service to help build a reputable brand grow. So for if you have like say you have a lot of growing experience and you're wanting to work at a farm, you could say for your objective, my objective is to utilize and activate my decades of passion for the cannabis plant with my extensive experience in everything, you know, in everything plant touching, to help a legitimate farm reach like new heights in the cannabis movement. You know, something like that. Like, I mean, someone reads that, they're like, fuck yeah, like join my team. You know, that's great. So I hope that helps. I hope I answered your question. Nice. Right? Exactly. I find also, here's like a little tip, is to use adjectives in this, you know, in this example. Like, use descriptive words that communicate your passion. You know, there's a real difference between my objective is to use, you know, my objective is to use my knowledge of cannabis because I love weed. And I have a lot of experience in customer service and I want to work in the industry. Like that sounds way different than my objective is to activate and utilize my decades of passion for the plant and help facilitate a revolutionary growth or something. Like use different words. When I'm writing a resume or helping others write resumes, I'll often get on the thesaurus. How could I use like a different word? Or if there's a word that you see you're like using a lot, maybe you're using like experience a lot. How do you like use a different word for it? That can be a fun way too, to like kind of zhuzh up your resume and make it stand out. So that's awesome. How do I spin my long absence from work due to health issues that I now have improved using cannabis, but also with the help of cannabis community? That's such a great question, Christina. Okay, so I like my recommendation would 100% be like spinning that. Your like lack of experience in the workforce was actually gained immense personal experience. So relevant experience, I would put you could title it something like, trying to think of like what words that I would use for that, but like I'm having like a lack of words here. My point is like, how can you frame that time to be like you were doing research? Maybe you like literally title it like relevant research, like under relevant experience, research, and then write, in 2008, like, here's my story, right? In 1997, I was diagnosed with scoliosis and osteoarthritis. After years of not being able to work due to, of being on medical leave, I, found cannabis topicals, like in the moment. See, again, I love wordsmithing. So part of me wants to like make this perfect as I'm saying it out loud, which is making me stumble a little bit. But, how can you reframe that? Because especially if that time that you weren't working was time that you found all of this personal experience with cannabis and now you want to communicate that, how can you spin that into like continually asking yourself the question of like, how is what I'm communicating showing them that I can help them grow? So just spinning your experience of like, that's your why, right? In this workshop, we talked about starting with like dialing in your why for working in cannabis. This you could weave into your objective, and then you can weave into your relevant experience. You could say like, I don't know what your resume is in particular. And again, please feel free to send it to me, or we could like jump on a quick call or something like that. But like, if are there other things you did during that time? Like you could call it research, but also like maybe you could even put like member of Tokeativity, like being a member of something or like participating in a community. If you're a member of something, that's like also goes in with like volunteering or like or research or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, memberships, freelance work. There doesn't have to be money for this. It's more about the relevancy of your experience. And we all know, the cannabis industry is so unique. Like a lot of people don't have degrees in anything. A lot of people don't have a lot of relevant work experience because they've been working in other spaces, or maybe they were patients. This whole market today is here because of patients. So frankly, if you share your medical story and someone doesn't want to hire you because of it, you don't want to be working for that company anyway. They're in it for the wrong reason. So tapping into your why, sharing your story, that can be very powerful. I hope that that's helpful. So, all right, folks, there's just a few minutes before the main stage opens, and I'm going to be jumping over to the main stage to introduce some of our guests and to kick off this amazing event. I'm so glad that that was helpful, Christina. Again, please feel free to reach out to me. Anyone who has watched this and is maybe working on a resume, my email is samantha@tokeativity.com. Also, if you just get a hold of us through the website, someone can get you to me. I'm more than happy to help. And we need more women. We need more people of color who are working in the cannabis industry. And the more that we can transfer our skills, put a great face to this industry, continue to be passionate about the plant and the planet and the movement and the opportunity that we have here to change the world, it's very, very exciting. So thank you all for watching today. I'm going to move over to the main stage and I will see all of you in this amazing event today. So stoked to be here.